So I just got finished watching the first episode of Dragon Ball Daima, and I usually don't do these kind of unscripted videos, but this was so good, I literally just had to share my thoughts on it, and just to send you one message. If there's only one thing you take away from this entire video, it is that you need to watch Dragon Ball Daima. So today, the first episode came out, it's 30 minutes long, and is kind of just the intro to this new series. This video will be split, and I'll kind of do a non-spoiler section and then a spoiler section. The timestamp will go here when the spoilers come up. So for a non-spoiler first episode review of my thoughts, right off the bat, the animation is absolutely breathtaking. I think for this episode, I think there's kind of two different sets of animators going here. When you watch the episode, you know what I'm talking about. There's one section that I think is clearly animated by someone else, and it is, I think, the best animation that Dragon Ball has ever had. I think it's literally better than Dragon Ball Super Broly, and even the peaks of the Tournament of Power, and even, like, it's on the same level as, like, the intro to Dragon Ball Super Superhero. I think it might be the same animator. I'm not personally a Dragon Ball fan who knows, like, the different kinds of animators who work on Dragon Ball stuff, but either way, it was absolutely amazing. It's very familiar. We've seen bits and pieces of this animation already. Again, I don't want to spoiler what it is, but if you're watching the trailers, you can probably figure out what I'm talking about. Beyond that, the actual main animation of the show is also fantastic. I kind of just wish Dragon Ball Super had looked this good, and I know that is kind of impossible a wish. It's not being produced in the same way. It's clearly a very, very different team working on it, but still, it was absolutely fantastic. And I really, really liked it. Beyond that, though, when it comes to the actual plot and what's going on, this was definitely more of a, like, setup episode. There's no real major, like, action set pieces or, like, major, like, big rising moments to a, like, satisfying conclusion. It's the first episode. Essentially, the new villains are placed on the table, so you know what we're dealing with here. This new world is somewhat established, but we don't get too much information about it. We figure out when this story takes place in the Dragon Ball timeline. We learn the villains' motivations. We are reintroduced to the Z Fighters and characters like Goku and Vegeta, as they are currently at this point in the story. Yeah, so I do want to kind of get into the spoilers, so that was a very, very quick non-spoiler section. Again, this is not the whole show, it is just one episode, so I can't, like, majorly go into all too much detail, especially while being spoiler-free. But the one thing, again, I can say is that you absolutely need to watch this. It is that good. It has so much potential, and especially what it is, especially for how long it's been since we've gotten a proper Dragon Ball product. Dragon Ball anime, I mean, and especially how this is probably Akira Toriyama's last work. Just please don't pirate this, if you can. Even just do the free Crunchyroll trial just to see this first episode. It is really that worth it, and that's all I have to say about that. Okay, so right after this point, I'll be getting into actual spoilers now, about the different characters. I don't super remember the characters' names specifically. To start off the bat, now going into details about the things I was alluding to before, the Buu Saga reanimations, and even just the intro that is essentially quickly summarizing the story of Dragon Ball, again, I think was the best looking Dragon Ball has maybe ever looked. Especially the parts with, like, Ultimate Gohan fighting Super Buu, and the Majin Vegeta stuff looked absolutely fantastic. And of course, Kid Buu getting defeated with the Spirit Bomb was absolutely, like, breathtakingly beautiful. But then we get introduced to these villains. And right off the bat, the power scaling in the show, and this is the power scaling part coming through. I'll probably put a timestamp to say this is the power scaling conversation. The power scaling in the show is not going to be revolutionary in every single way. It's pretty quickly established, and something we've known for a while now, that Dabura is the king of the Demon Realm, and probably by extension is one of, if not the strongest guys in the Demon Realm. And so, everyone there is probably going to be weaker than Dabura, which is essentially weaker than base Goku was in the Cell Saga, if you want to be an edgy power scaler, or at least Super Saiyan 2 Goku was in the Buu Saga. Sorry, if I said Cell Saga, I meant Buu Saga. Base Buu Saga and Super Saiyan 2 Buu Saga Goku. So, very likely, not until the very end are we going to ever come across characters who are even like Buu Saga level. Again, all of these guys are like Majin Buu victims. So don't expect this to be like a breathtaking change to the power scaling of the Dragon Ball cosmology or anything like that. Like Super Goku is not going to get upscaled by anything that happens in the show, especially when, and we'll get into this later, we find out that Goku is being turned into the age of a first grader. Now, if you guys are familiar with Dragon Ball, especially OG Dragon Ball, you know that Goku is actually way older than that, even by the first chapter of Dragon Ball Z. So if he truly is reverted, I had a couple theories about like how strong this Goku was going to be, and this was not one of them. I did not have the theory that he was going to be made even younger than he was in the first chapter of Dragon Ball. I think in the first chapter of Dragon Ball, he's at least 10. I think he might even be 12. I could be wrong about that, but he's definitely not 6 or 7 like he is here. So this Goku is vaguely weaker than a power level of 10 unless we get new information. But besides that, we get these villains. And right off the bat, they're kind of very established to be a very Pilaf type group. I'm forgetting the name of who the new Demon King guy is. He's the jester looking guy. I've talked about him before, but he is clearly going to be like the Emperor Pilaf of this story, kind of fumbling his way just through kind of having the respect of a couple henchmen and just barely squeaking by with his evil plans here. But I found him very entertaining. It seems like the animators love animating all of the expressions and stuff he makes. And so he's a very fun villain to watch, but clearly he's not going to be carrying the story through like Frieza, Cell, and Vegeta level like aura. He's not that kind of villain, and he's the kind of villain that Toriyama does actually really like, seem to have really liked writing. So I'm here for it. The other characters are really interesting. On the villain side, you have Shin's seemingly evil younger siblings. You have Dr. Rinzu. I remember her name because they say it like very specifically several times, and I forget Shin's younger brother's name, but he's the guy who just looks like Shin but taller. We don't see too much of them from this episode, but it's very clear, and I think what's going to happen here, and this is more of a theory, I think Dr. Rinzu is clearly going to actually be kind of the final villain here. So you have the new Demon King and his kind of Shin's brother as the henchman. They're going to be doing their own plans, and the entire time, I think in the background, Dr. Rinzu is going to be doing her own plan. She's very similar to, if you guys are familiar with like the Dragon Ball Heroes in Xenoverse, she's very clearly like a Mira character, Toa and Mira. I think very clearly she's going to be doing something with that. If I'm saying the wrong name, I'll put in who I actually talk about, but it's the evil scientist chick from like the universe and whatnot. She's designed very similarly, she acts very similarly. Clearly she's going to be having some secret plan going on, but we'll have to see. Aside from that, and I'm just kind of going chronologically through the episode here, the environments are absolutely beautiful. Again, this is kind of just a praise to the animators and the people who are doing the art for this show. Each of the environments they go through, even like that weird like teleportation space they go to when they're going to Universe 7 inside the fish, looked amazing. Again, if you haven't seen the episode and I'm talking about teleportation space inside a fish, it doesn't make that much sense. To be honest, it barely makes that much sense in the episode itself, but again, I think it just works. It's establishing the Demon Realm as a place that kind of just doesn't follow rules in the exact same way that like our world does. Which is really cool. So when they actually go to Universe 7, and they're hatching this plan, sorry, I should say this, they're hatching this plan to essentially, now that they're the new Demon King and that all their threats of Babidi, Dabura, and Babidi, Dabura, and Buu are essentially dealt with, they're like, okay, cool, we're the new Demon King, let's kind of take over let's do some evil stuff, but these guys might be a problem, so let's use their Dragon Balls. It's established that the Demon World has their own Dragon Balls with this old guy, and they're defended by these warriors. I think it's very clear that these warriors, and I talked about this actually in my DLC for Sparking Zero video, these guys are clearly going to be actually the main, I think, opponents that Goku's going to be fighting in the story. They're like these guardians of the Dragon Balls. So again, we barely see them or what they do, but clearly these guys are going to be pretty cool and hopefully have some awesome fights in the future. Anyway, so they plan to make a wish that's going to make them younger, using the Earthling Dragon Balls because they're easier to obtain for whatever reason. So they go there, and then we actually get reintroduced to the Z Fighters. And actually, the actual like good guys in this episode are barely in it. They share maybe like I want to say like 10% of this episode, pretty much. It's really not about them, which I thought was really interesting, but it's really good because they're assuming you know who Goku is, you know what I mean? But we get a really, really well animated fight between Goku and Vegeta. It's established that it's like Trunks' birthday, and it's really nice to kind of just get those brief moments of the Z Fighters hanging out. Anyways, while that's happening, the demon team, I guess I'll call them, are going to Kami's Lookout, where they essentially just like trick and brute force their way into summoning the Dragon Balls using the old Namekian that they have, which is kind of reveals that the Namekians are actually maybe from the Demon Realm. I'll have to rewatch that scene and see what they say. Again, this is my first reactions. I literally just watched it through and I'm talking about it now. Which is kind of cool, because like the Namekians started as demons, so the fact that they might actually be, and there's I think implications in data books and stuff that actually that's how they've always been, but this is kind of just confirmation of that, which I think is pretty cool. So again, back on track here. I think Dende is now the biggest fraud in Dragon Ball history now. All these characters, these evil guys, are clearly doing something bad and using Shenron and everything, and Dende just stands there and is like, I won't give you guys the password to Shenron, even though they know the password. Any time at this point, he could have telepathically communicated with any of the Z Fighters, or Piccolo had been like, hey, there's these guys here. They fly over instantly, beat him up, story could have ended. Now, I get that defeats the purpose, but I just think it's really funny how I want to say plot-induced stupidity caused this to happen. Either way, I thought that was really funny. Dende's like a total fraud now. Anyways, they get this wish off, and that's where the episode ends. They make this wish, and you see everyone turn back into a kid, and then the episode just ends. And so really, in a way, the true show doesn't start until next week. It's kind of like all the parts are in place now. Everyone's turned into a kid. Again, they're turned into first graders, and anyone younger than that has been turned into a baby. So clearly, it's setting the stage for them to now go on this adventure to probably get the other Dragon Balls, I assume, in the Demon Realm, the 3 Demon Realm Dragon Balls, and use them to turn themselves back into normal adults and at their normal size and age and everything. Some random loose ends I think narratively are going to be interesting. We have this guy, Glorio, I remember his name. You see him kind of hiding in the background, kind of watching what's going on with the Demon Realm, and then somehow in the teaser for the next episode, he somehow seems to get to Earth. So clearly he is probably against these demon guys. He's probably be some sort of demon freedom fighter, something like that. It also seems interesting, again, these are just details I noticed and wrote down in my notes. The Demon Realm doesn't seem to know what ki is. While Goku and Vegeta are fighting, they note they're like, are they using magic? Which I think can maybe be an important factor for the fact that, like, actually Goku's the only guy with, like, ki manipulation, which might set him apart and make him special while he's in the Demon Realm. Everyone else doesn't know how to use ki and only uses magic, so that might be really interesting to see where that goes. What else? Oh, one of the things is that they essentially re-retcon the Potara retcon. So if you guys remember in Dragon Ball Super, they say that the Potara actually has a time limit when you're not a Kai, which is fine. But now, in the recent episode, they explain that Shin and Kibito are unfused again because actually what the original Dragon Ball guides had said about Vegito defusing, that actually inside Buu, he is a gas that makes Potara fusions defuse, that actually is true, and that's actually how they got defused, and that's why Vegito defused, meaning he didn't actually run out of time, actually Buu made him defuse, which, again, is harmless, but actually just, it's funny how they've essentially re-retconned a retcon to explain a new thing. So, anyways, that explains why Shin is around, and I think the important reason why Shin is around here is because his siblings are clearly playing a major role in this episode. And are going to be playing a major role. Both Dr. Rinzu and the henchmen of the Demon King are his siblings somehow. So clearly his character is going to be very important in this story moving forward. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. Those are my thoughts, kind of my predictions and whatnot, my power scaling thoughts. So probably don't expect a how strong is Daima Goku video, or at least the video is not going to add anything impressive. But yeah. Those are my thoughts. If you guys like this and want just my kind of raw thoughts like this, let me know. I can do this every week. But if not, that's totally fine. Shout out to my members. You're not going to be seeing this video early, but my members get to see my videos early. And just again, bottom line, please go watch this. It's that good. Support a new Dragon Ball thing if you guys like Dragon Ball. I know Sparking Zero just came out, but take some time, especially because Sparking Zero's DLC is going to be 2 packs of Daima. So yeah, see ya.